Welcome into episode 514 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. Bridget and Scott, the Bruins fell to the Vancouver Canucks and the Ottawa Senators over the weekend. I had teased at the end of last episode how sneaky of a game I thought it was against Vancouver, and it turned out to be just that, and we'll talk about the Senators game as well. For me, the results are one thing, certainly disappointing results. No doubt about it. But what was more bothersome in my eyes was the process. Certainly throughout the entire Senators game and parts of the Canucks game really bothered me as well. So we'll get into it all. There's a lot to touch on, but Bridget and Scott, we'll start with you guys.
Yeah, I'll just go right into my opening shift, which is that I hated the way the Bruins handled their goaltending this weekend. I think I mentioned it on our Friday podcast. We knew Swayman and Korpisalo were going to split these two starts. Seemed to make all the sense in the world to me that Korpisalo would go Saturday against the Western Conference opponent, give Swayman an extra day of rest, throw him in for the big divisional game Sunday night against a surging Ottawa team that you're neck and neck with for a playoff spot. Instead, the Bruins went with Swayman on Saturday, gave him a fourth straight start for the first time this season, and 4 starts in a week, right? Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Didn't really make sense to me. Didn't work out because Swayman did not play well Saturday. Now, maybe that's just he had an off game, or maybe he's a little overworked and he didn't hold up to a 4th straight start. But by putting Swayman in for that game, it almost, in a way, like made Saturday a must win. Like it almost felt like, without saying it, Sturm, for some reason, was prioritizing that game as like, we're going to win the first one of these two, and then we'll try to piece it together for Sunday with Korpisalo and net. Well, instead you lose the first one against Vancouver in a shootout, so you get a point. And now Sunday night, like, not that there's really truly a such thing as a must win in December, but that really becomes an important game. And you're playing on a back-to-back, and now you're going to your backup goalie, who, by the way, hasn't been playing that well most of the season, honestly, but especially recently. And Korpisalo has a bad night. The whole team has a bad night. But you end up pulling Korpisalo after 5 goals on 17 shots with more than half the game still left to play. So now Swayman is into a 5th game in 8 days. He's almost certainly going to start Tuesday against Montreal. So that'll make it 6 games in 10 days. And I just think it's a rough spot to be in. Like, thank God they get a 3-day break after that, because they're going to need it. Swayman's going to need it. But I don't really know why they got to this point in the first place. I want to get into Korpisalo's play, because I think you're getting to a point where you really seriously have to consider some other options. You're just not getting good enough goaltending from the backup spot. And related to that, I think because you don't trust the backup, they are at risk of overworking Jeremy Swayman. And that is one way that this season could really go sideways, is if you're not getting Jeremy Swayman at his best.
Yeah. And Sturm, before the game, said, I think, was it you questioned to him about, wanting to go to Swayman 4 games in a row? And he just said that we thought it gave us the best chance to win. It's like, well, yeah.
That's post-game Saturday.
Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, obviously your number one goalie usually gives you a better chance to win. But we talked about it too before, when I think Brian brought it up. Like, Vancouver was last place in the entire league. And you decide why isn't that the matchup that you're going with your backup to give Swayman a rest? And then Ottawa is a team that's given them trouble the whole year. So, I mean, maybe they saw, Swayman's worst game of the season was against Ottawa. He gave up 7 goals. Maybe that played into it. Who knows? But
just quickly on that, though, like, you can't hide your number one goalie from a team because he had one bad game. I mean, Korpisalo had a bad game last time out against Ottawa too. Like he also had a really good game. But yeah, I mean, like if Swayman has one bad game against a team and then you're going to hide him from them, then I can't possibly imagine that's what Sturm was thinking. Like that would be a bad sign if like you don't have faith in Swayman to bounce back against a team he had a bad game against like 2 months ago. Like that can't possibly be it.
Yeah, more likely than not, he just thought that Vancouver game was like a certain win if he played Swayman, like just a certainty that they were going to outplay them, which by the way, they did outplay them. But they still get the shootout loss. They, some mistakes creeped in. They end up giving up a lead early in the third period. We can get into that game. But my opening shift is just the trend of the last 3 games. They lose each of their last 3 against the Canadian teams that have come in. And they have one more before the holidays on the 23rd on Tuesday against Montreal. That's going to be really important. But it's been a tough 3-game losing streak. They get 1 point out of 6 possible points in that stretch, and now they're back outside a playoff spot on points and points percentage. And you can tell the demeanor has once again kind of shifted back down to just being like, I don't know why this is happening again. And it's been a season of streaks. It's been you win 6, you lose 6, you win 3, you lose 3. It's kind of gone back and forth. But that makes that Montreal game before Christmas really important because it's obviously a rivalry game, and it's with the chance to stop a 3-game losing streak rather than extend it to a 4-game losing streak before the holiday break. And I wanted to read a quote from Zadorov yesterday after the game on the importance of the next game. He said, "We need to win that game. We're out of a playoff spot. That's not where we want to be. It's really tight in the standings, but we know where we're at. Nowhere near where we want to be as well. So we've got to show up against a big rivalry game." And McAvoy said something similar. Basically, we still feel like we're being really competitive, but we're making more mistakes than we have when they were in that stretch where they're finally feeling good. Obviously, there's been a change since that, and I think a lot of their mistakes have been defensively. So, just in a tough spot now on a 3-game losing streak.
Yeah, and you look at the Atlantic Division, and this is kind of where I wanted to go with my opening shift, is that a lot of the division is playing really good hockey right now. And a few of the teams that are playing okay hockey are ahead of the Bruins, both in points and points percentage. So, for example, Tampa Bay, right? I think they're 3-6-1 in their last 10. Not playing great hockey, but they're still ahead of the Bruins. Montreal, I think they played maybe a little bit around 500, maybe a little bit better in their last 10, but they're still ahead of the Bruins in both points and points percentage. But then you look at the Florida Panthers, because right now Boston's 6th in the Atlantic in points percentage. Yeah, they're 4th in points, but let's look at points percentage. That's what tells the more accurate story. Boston's now in 6th, and Florida has gone 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. They're ahead of the Bruins in point percentage. Ottawa, who you lost to last night, they've won 6 of their last 10. They jump ahead of you in points percentage. The Buffalo Sabres, they're on your heels in points percentage. They've won 6 in a row. So the Toronto Maple Leafs continue to be the sad story in the division for them. But outside of Toronto right now, the Bruins are playing the worst hockey in the division. And Bridget, to your point about the Bruins' streakiness, it's very evident. Look no further than this month. You win 4 or 5 to start the month. You've lost 4 or 5 heading into their game against Montreal tomorrow night. And, when they go through these slumps, it's really there's a lot of reasons that they've lost these couple of games here, these 3 games in a row, these 4 or 5. Well, we'll get into all of it. But at the forefront of it, to me, is poor penalty killing and poor goaltending. Now, the scoring, the 5-on-5 play, it hasn't been good enough. The scoring has not been good enough. And I touched on Pasternak last episode about how his goal scoring hasn't really been there. He hasn't scored an even strength goal in 14 games. He breaks through last night, which is great. But you can't rely on Pasternak and Geeky all the time. But the goaltending and the special teams, like Scott, you touched on the goaltending earlier. We're going to keep touching on it later. Swayman's been inconsistent at best the last little stretch here, and Korpisalo has been pretty cold. The penalty kill for the first 2 months was top 10 in the league. That has slipped down to 20th now after last night. They've given up 8 power play goals against in their last 7 games, and they've given up a power play goal against in each of their last 7 games. So I don't know if it's just as simple as, well, the PK goes as the goaltending goes. I don't like to put it on the goaltending because there's 4 other guys on the ice, and I do think that their details have slipped on the PK, and I think their details situationally in games, ends of periods, beginnings of periods, have not been great either. So yeah, Bridget, you mentioned it. It's a tough 3-game losing streak. I think that they had an opportunity to collect points on this 5-game homestand following your win against Utah. Yeah, you lost to Minnesota last Sunday 6-2, but you know what? You had just won 4 games in a row, and then you followed it up with the win over Utah. So you've won 4 or 5, and now you have Edmonton, Vancouver, Senators, and Montreal, and now you've lost 3 of those of the ensuing games. Now you get a point. You get your first OT point of the season against Vancouver, but just not good enough. And it's not good enough behind the bench, not good enough in goal, and not good enough from, the defenseman on out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I had written about this after the Minnesota game and mentioned it on here, that I thought their defense and penalty kill, penalty kills just statistically had started to slip. And I thought the numbers showed in the eye test showed their defense had started to slip too. Like, to me, it's been a trend since Thanksgiving that was getting covered up by great goaltending for a couple weeks. And now that the goaltending has slipped, both Swayman and Korpisalo, now it's really exposed and out in the open that their defense has slipped for going on a month now. And the penalty kill has continued to decline. As you said, 7 straight games, they've given up a goal. And it feels like it doesn't feel like there's like one consistent thing that's going wrong. Like I think that Minnesota game, it was the entries. Like Minnesota's just coming in with speed and getting into the zone clean. And then other games, it'll be a failed clear that costs them. And then it'll be a lost battle at the net front or someone not taking away a pat. Like, it's just like something a little different every time. But the overarching theme would be that the goaltending isn't bailing out those mistakes the way it was earlier in the year. And that's happening both on the penalty kill and 5-on-5. And so, like, you can just simply say, like, well, Swayman and Korpisalo need to be better. And they do. But that also is an indictment of the team in front of them. It's like, unfortunately, I think the way this team is built and has been built, you continue to need really elite goaltending to win on any kind of consistent basis. And for most of the season, Swayman has played like a goalie capable of doing that, right? Like, he's still 4th in the NHL in goals saved above expected. He is taking a lot more goals off the board than he's putting on. But that it is a tough formula to sustain. And when your backup goalie is struggling the way Korpisalo is, when he gets his 1 start every 7 to 10 days, it's tough. Like, it's just, you can't rely on your backup. So you end up wanting to just keep going to Swayman. Then he gets overworked, and that defeats the whole purpose, because if he's not fresh, you don't get his best. We did this last year, and I think it continues to be true. But like, once you start giving him 3-4 straight starts, you're pushing your luck. He is at his best when he gets 1 out of every 3 or 4 games off. Give him 1 game off a week, basically. And Sturm's trying to push that. He's trying to see if he can go a little further. And I think it's because he doesn't trust Korpisalo right now. And like, after Sunday night, how could you? Like, that's only going to add to it. So, Swayman is going to get Tuesday against Montreal. And then you come out of break and you go on this Western road trip, and it's like, what's the plan then? Like, is he just going to keep trying to ride Swayman 4 or 5 straight starts, or what? Is it time to try someone else as a backup? I don't know, but this team's they're in a tough spot right now. And like Tuesday night really feels like one of those like dig deep and show what you're made of type of games, because you can either do that, dig in and get yourself a big win over Montreal and still feel pretty good about where you are at Christmas, whether you're technically in a playoff spot or not. But if you lose that and you go into Christmas 4 straight losses, 5 out of 6, like I know like these guys are all wired, so they'll still have like a good Christmas. They'll put hockey off to the side, but like it would really be a sour way to go in when you've otherwise given yourselves a lot to feel good about this half, but like now you're kind of limping.
Why don't we go to that question that you just asked though, Scott? Like, because you brought this up to me during the game. Like, is it time to have like a serious thought or a serious consideration for what else they could do with the backup situation? Like, the problem is you're not going to just waive Korpisalo. Like the problem is,
which by the way, like just from a technical perspective, you can't actually do right now anyways because of the NHL holiday roster freeze.
Yes.
So know that like we're probably talking about a move you make after Christmas at the absolute earliest. Also, Michael DiPietro is dealing with I think a minor injury. He's missed the last couple of games down in Providence, so like that so we're not talking like today or tomorrow. This is a week from now conversation.
Yeah. So, but even so, like waiving Korpisalo, probably not the best asset management anyway, because you probably want to get something for him rather than him just get claimed off waivers. So
who's claiming him off waivers? Like, what are you getting? What value does he have to any other team right now?
I mean, maybe Edmonton. I don't know.
I would say good. Like, honestly, if someone claims him and takes on that salary cap hit for the next 2 years, like, see ya. I don't see how that would be a bad thing at all for the Bruins.
Who doesn't?
I think they'd welcome that.
You know who doesn't need to claim Korpisalo off waivers is Carolina, because they got Brandon the Bussy back there doing pretty well for them. Former Bruins player. Or Providence Bruins player.
I mean, I can't lose my mind over that, to be honest. Like the Bruins.
No, I'm just saying they don't need Korpisalo. I'm not. What am I? I'm not insinuating anything here. What do you mean?
Well, but a lot of fans are doing that, right? Like everyone's like, oh, but they just let Bussy get away, and it's like, yeah, they had a decision to make. DiPietro and Bussy were both free agents, and DiPietro had a better season than Bussy the year going into that, so that they picked DiPietro. Like Brandon Bussy, congratulations to the kid. He's finally starting to establish himself as an NHL goalie at 27 years old. Good for him. I can't lose my mind over. Like he wasn't very good his last season in Providence here. He was inconsistent. Great job by him getting to this point, but from a Bruins perspective, like that they picked the goalie who had been better in DiPietro. Like it's fine.
I just wanted to poke you a little bit, Scott. Just want to give you a little poke. Get you going a little bit. Get those high knees going. Huh?
I didn't expect him to be that angry at you for that. But
no, it's not just Brian. But it's you see it. You see it
talking about this the last few weeks. I haven't seen anything. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Brian, those are Brian's accounts, by the way. It's just
no. Yeah, so we can get into that later. I mean, what they should do. I mean, I don't think any of us here would be too upset if they found a way to move Korpisalo.
Well, why don't we just talk about it now since we're already like halfway?
Well,
through?
I mean, if they can. All right, so what do you do? Do you waive him or do you try to trade him? I mean, what's the easier way that someone would take him? Either get trade and you have to package him with something else, probably, right?
Yeah, honestly, like right now, I don't think anyone's taking him either way. I think if you waive him, he's going to clear, and then you're either going to send him to Providence or you're going to work on a mutual buyout. But I don't know that would make sense for Korpisalo. Like, he probably just wants to get his money. So realistically, like, that's what it would look like. It's probably waive him. He clears. You send him to Providence. He's very unhappy about it. But like, you've made it. If you're doing that, like, you're making your decision. Whether it's most likely it's DiPietro if he's able to come back healthy in this next week or so. I guess Zahaicek could be an option, although he's just less experienced, right? Like, he's having a very good season as well. Numbers are right there with DiPietro down in Providence, but he's in his first season in North America, so I don't know if they would feel like he's ready. DiPietro, like, either you think he can be an NHL backup or you don't. He's 26. Like, there's not a whole lot of development still going on there. Like, I think he is what he is. So I guess that would be my pick. And yeah, I think it would be worth a look at some point, unless Korpisalo like really turns things around ASAP.
And the second part of the equation is, what else would Korpisalo need to do, like, for it to be, time for that? Like, is it already time, or is it like one more, two more like, what's it gonna take for this? Because it's drastic, right? Like, you don't want to have an overreaction to some bad play. I don't know. So I guess the second part of the question to both of you is, what else would have to go wrong for Korpisalo to see them do something like this?
Yeah, I guess just further nights where he's not giving his chance the team to win. Now listen, Ottawa last night, the Bruins didn't give the Bruins a chance to win. I mean, Korpisalo is a part of that. Don't get me wrong. I did not love the Batherson goal. I hated the Zetterlund goal. I mean, that just the first one, the short side. Again, it's an accurate shot. Tip your cap to Zetterlund, but that's a shot that you can't let. I mean, there was 6 inches there. He shot it from the top of the circle. It can't happen. And it's a deflating goal, puts the Senators up 3-0. And while the Bruins, to my point a minute ago, the Bruins are the reason that the Bruins were down 3-0. I mean, you need a save there. If you want any chance to really come back, you need a save there. So if he's going to, and right now, points are at a premium. We've touched on it. Like, the Bruins, this is going to be a tough. Montreal's not an easy game the way the Bruins are playing right now. They will expose Boston if they keep being this loose defensively. Then you got to go out west. Buffalo's won 6 in a row, so they're playing well. Then you got to go to the Western Canada. You got to play Edmonton again. You got to play Calgary, who's playing really well. You got to play Vancouver, who's playing. They haven't lost since they traded Quinn Hughes, right? And that includes a win over the Bruins. Then you got Seattle, who, whatever. But this can go south quickly, and if Korpisalo isn't giving the Bruins a chance to win, then I don't know. How bad do you guys want to make the playoffs? Do you want to make the playoffs, or do you want to, concede into what could be what a lot of fans want anyway, which is a bit of a sell at the deadline? So if they want to be serious about making the playoffs this year, you have to have a backup goaltender that gives your team a chance to win. And I think, defensively, the team hasn't been great. And I promise you guys, I'm not trying to be funny when I say this. I never thought I'd be saying this before the year, but I'm sorry, but there is a bit of a dynamic difference on the Bruins D pairs when Aspero was out of the lineup recently. I mean, they've lost 4 or 5 since he's gotten. I'm not trying to be funny, but watch that Soderstrom Lohrei pairing. The physicality and the compete that Aspero brings to that third pair, and on the PK, he's not a fun player to play against. And again, I didn't think I'd be saying this because I didn't know who Jonathan Aspero was 3 months ago. And I'm not going to pretend that I did, but I do now. And I'm telling you that, his absence has been felt, I think, in these last 5 games where they've lost 4 of them since he went down. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe if the defense is better in front of Korpisalo, but right now I can't say that that's the case.
Yeah, and I think the Lohrei Soderstrom pair has had some good games, and Soderstrom's looked better than I would have expected for the most part. I think Lohrei has, over the last month, played better, not great defensively by any means, but better than what we were seeing earlier in the season. But they really had a rough night Sunday against Ottawa. Against a team that's fast, good forechecking, good on the cycle. Like, you saw that pairing really struggle with that. Now, they weren't the only ones. I thought the Lindholm-Peak pair had a tough game as well. They were also a -2. So both of those pairs were a -2.
Been saying that a lot lately, haven't you, Scott?
Yeah, for sure. And like, did they had bounced? I'm trying to think of which game it was. Winnipeg, maybe. Like, they had one or two really good games recently, but yeah, too many off games as well. And again, it's worth noting, like, before Aspro got hurt, I think for one game, the game that Aspro got hurt in, Sturm had started that game with Lindholm Aspro as the second pair, and he had moved Peak down. And I think that's probably something he wanted to do more of. But then, of course, Aspro gets hurt, and it kind of backs him into a corner, and you're sort of left with no option but to go back to Lindholm Peak, as long as you want to keep Zadorov McAvoy together. So, yeah, like, I think Marco Sturm probably wants to try something else, and probably will once Aspro's back. But for now, obviously, the options are limited. Now, I do think after Sunday, yeah, maybe like Montreal rivalry game, not the best time to do it, but I would put Kolyachonok in for Tuesday, whether it's for Lohrei or Soderstrom, for one of them. He's a left shot, but he's played the right side as well. So he's had, a few practices now with the team. He'll have another on Monday. Feels like it would be a good time for it, in my opinion. You're going to want to see what you have there eventually anyways. But just to round out some thoughts on Korpisalo, because to me, it's not just recent bad play. I mean, on the season, he's now 6-6-0 with an .888 save percentage. Among 61 goalies who have played at least 10 games this season, he ranks 57th in goals saved above expected. Minus 4.6 on the season. So it's not, this has been building all year, really. There's that one stretch in October, a couple games he was good. He even got the back-to-back starts late in that month it was after Swayman's off game in Ottawa. But since then, since the start of November, I would say the divide between Swayman and Korpisalo has been significant. And that's why Sturm's even said it a couple times, like, it's hard to not put Swayman in. Like, he's like, I want to keep putting him in. And it's like, yeah, I get why, but I just don't think Swayman's that kind of goalie. Like, he's not Connor Hellebuck. Yeah, I don't think, like, starting to give him 4 or 5 starts in a row and push him up to 60 plus starts, I think you're going to hit diminishing returns where you're just not going to get him playing like the goalie he's played like for most of the season.
Which is what happened last year. Like, if you look at, when they gave him more rest.
Well, last year he struggled right from the start.
I know, but what I'm saying is the recipe last year was giving him more starts than he had handled in the past, and he did have diminishing returns, like you mentioned. And I thought that Sturm this year was trying to avoid that by playing Korpisalo more, and maybe like we've been having a conversation about, it's just hard to do that now because you feel like it's an automatic loss if you're putting your backup in. But yes, it's a tough situation. We don't spend a whole lot of time on goaltending normally, but I feel like now's the time. Like, stuff hits a boiling point, and then it's a conversation that needs to be had. And unfortunately for Swayman, he's getting a lot of work here, and he's going to have to continue that against Montreal, and he's going to have to have a good game against Montreal. So yeah, it's tough. And then to Brian, your point about Aspro, I know you weren't kidding, because I've thought the same thing. Like, I'm sure I wouldn't have thought at the beginning of the season that sentence would be said. But ever since he's come in, and he just provides a different style of defense back there than Soderstrom does, than Yoki Haru did, than list the guys that have been out of the lineup. Callahan, like they're all sitting up on the ninth floor with us. It's still a very long list of guys. Like they take up the whole section, unfortunately, and it's the kind of defense that was more steady. He wasn't a flashy offensive player, but he was solid defensively. He was more physical. He was challenging guys. Like, he's harder to play against. He wears people down maybe a little bit more than the other guys do. And it seems like something that when it's missing, it's more obvious now, just because you saw him start to do it really well. He had held on to his spot since getting called up for good reason. And now you see the injuries piling up. We were talking about it more when it was Pasternak and McAvoy, and when it was the Lindholms or those types of guys. But the guys that are out right now are kind of more the supplementary guys, but they're still, which ones of them could they really use right now? And he's certainly one that, if he was healthy, maybe things go a little bit differently.
Yeah, and Jordan Harris too. I liked him a lot before he got hurt, and he's probably on his way back too. But Bridget, to your point, I want to give an example to highlight the point you were making. And my goal here is to not come down hard on Mason Lohrei. My goal here is just to talk real, and I genuinely want you guys to think about what I'm going to say and answer the question. But like last night, the Tim Stützle goal. Okay, I forget what it made the score at the time. It may have made it 4-1, or 4-1 maybe. So again, it's a backbreaking type of goal. Because I thought the Bruins were playing decent to start the second period. Mason. Now, I want to say first and foremost, Casey Middlestat doesn't get the puck out, so that's the first and foremost. But as the play develops, Mason Lohrei loses a one-on-one physical battle with Brady Tkachuk. Now, I think that's going to happen to most defenders in the NHL, including Jonathan Aspro. I still like Jonathan Aspro's chances against Tkachuk better than Lohrei physically, but let's say it happens to Aspro and he loses that battle to Tkachuk and the puck goes to the front of the net like it did last night. Okay. Do you think Jonathan Aspro is going to stand there straight-legged in the crease with a puck loose as Pavel Zacha battles Tim Stützle for body positioning, and then Stützle finds the loose puck and scores? Or do you think Jonathan Aspro finds that loose puck, gets his nose in there, and gets the puck to the corner or gets it out of harm's way? Do you think he just stands there in that moment? Because I don't. And I'm not trying to bash Lohrei, but that's a play where you're just standing there watching. You can't do that.
I hated everything about that play. Like, it's both Lohrei and Korpisalo. It's like they were just like leaving Zacha alone and expecting him to win the battle. You're right. Like, Lohrei, get in there and help your guy out. And Korpisalo, I don't know if he was going to like dive out for a poke check, but like he stays really low and like doesn't reset at all as that battle's going on. And then all of a sudden when Stützle gets the puck and shoots, Korpisalo has given him like 3/4 of the net to shoot at because he's still down on the ice. And I'm like, I just don't know what he was doing. Like when you watch the replay and it's like, he's just kind of laying there. And it's like, you had time to do one of two things. Either reset and get in position in case Stützle does get a shot off, or like be more aggressive and come out with a poke check of your own or something. And he kind of got in between. You're right. Lohrei gets stuck watching, and sure. So like Zacha, just the one-on-one battle of it, like Stützle comes away looking like he just wanted the puck more. So it doesn't look good for Zacha either, but certainly would have been nice if one of his two teammates sitting there watching had helped out a little more.
Yeah, I actually really didn't put that on Zacha because he was Stützle was on the ground. Like, he won that battle from the ice. And I don't even know still how he lifted the puck the way he did from there. But Zacha was at the very least like completely in his face. The puck's underneath Zacha's skates, so he can't really he can't reach it, right? That's why one of these other two has to come reach it, because it's like underneath him, and Stützle just kind of dives and throws a stick at it and somehow lifts it. It was kind of a crazy goal, but yeah, like he would have needed help. He would have needed support in order to clear the puck.
Lohrei might as well have had a beer and a pretzel in the first row for that one. That he was as effective as the guy behind the glass on that one. I mean, truly, and that's the type of stuff that isn't going to fly for him. Like, if you're going to be that defensively anemic, like, you better be honestly, I don't care how many points you put up in the NHL. You got to, but like, you got to be a 50, 60 point guy if the Bruins are going to accept plays like that on occasion. Like, that's just, it's just, it's just not, it's not going to cut it. It's just not going to cut it. And, is he 24, 25 years old? Like, he's not a kid. Yeah, it's his second full season in the NHL, but come on. Like, what are you doing? You see a loose puck there, you go and you help you're a defenseman. Don't forget what position you play. So I'm glad he had a nice little, I'm glad he had a nice little dipsy-do move on Batherson at the offensive blue line and late in the third period when it's 6-2. I'm glad he walks in and transition sometimes and gets a nice toe drag shot off that gets stopped. But the offensive upside, to me, it's not worth it when you're going to be out there making plays like that. And you're right, Scott. He has been good he's been better the last month in a more sheltered role with the right. I think that pair with him and Soderstrom, they've had their moments, but if they get trapped out there against the wrong line, they're just not physical enough. And it is what it is. It's the same thing when Lohrei plays with Yoki Haru. It's the same dynamic, right? They're just too soft. They get bullied around. So I don't know, like, big picture, I'm not calling for Lohrai's job in Boston, but if he can't show management that he's going to be a more dependable, consistent defensive player, then he doesn't have a spot on this roster long term as a defenseman. You just can't have it. Like, and what's he got right now? 13 points. It's like, okay, it's decent. Like, it's decent. It's not earth shattering, like, for an offensive minded guy. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I hated that play. And he's not the only one. Like, Hampus Lindholm, I've had a lot of issues with some soft plays lately too. I mean, it's not just Lohrei. I'm not trying to alienate him. But that one to me was just so glaring. It was so glaring last night that it just irked me. So I have nothing more to say on that play.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what Sturm does. Like I said, I would put Kolyachonok in on that third pair for one of those guys. And, as we're talking about it, like, maybe it is a good time to reset Lohrei. And if you do that for a Montreal game of all games, like, that sends a message. So that's something to watch. I think there's been a couple other interesting decisions from Sturm over the weekend to get into. So this one both, like, worked and kind of didn't work. Bigger picture, I think it worked, which was scratching Alex Steeves on Saturday. We had actually just talked on Friday about how his game had dropped off a little. Sturm clearly agreed because that was his exact reasoning for scratching Steeves, putting in Jeffrey VL. Now, I say it didn't work in the moment because VL did not have a good game. That fourth line did not have a good game against Vancouver. I think they were on for 2 against. But I did think Steeves came in rejuvenated on Sunday and was maybe the only Bruin who was, like, consistently noticeable. I mean, Jeannot and Kastelik, eventually you notice them for fighting. And, like, they tried to set a physical tone. Mm-hmm. But I thought Steeves did as well. He got moved up the lineup when Sturm decided to shake things up. So that'll be interesting to see. Does that stick? Does he go back to the top 6 now after, over the past week and a half sliding down the lineup? So that didn't work in the moment in the Vancouver game, but I think bigger picture was probably a good little reset for Steeves.
Can I say about Steeves before you move on to other stuff? When we talked to Sturm pregame, he said that Steeves, it wasn't a punishment. He also said this after the Vancouver game too. It's not a punishment. He seems like he's a little bit tired and he needs to recharge. And so it was like, yeah, he's dropped off, but maybe it's like a fatigue thing. And so the scratch, yes, he was a healthy scratch, but he was maybe starting to wear down a little bit. And because he's been mostly an AHL guy, and the pace of this league is different. And
Well,
Sturm thought it.
don't they play more on weekends in the AHL as well?
Yeah.
So it's
different.
more games for him too.
Yeah.
Like
So
literally.
basically, it was like this actually might be like two positive things. Like give him a break, rest, recharge, and give him a little bit of a message too. Though he did say it wasn't like he wasn't mad, or it wasn't a punishment necessarily. It was like I think this is what you need kind of situation.
Yeah.
Yep.
So another curious one to get into here was Sturm's shootout decisions on Saturday. In particular, going with Andrew Peeke fourth after it was scoreless through 3 rounds. Mikey Asimon in the 5th round. Morgan Geekie had to wait till the 7th. Now, the Bruins went 0 for 7 in the shootout, so maybe it wouldn't have mattered who Sturm threw out there, but nonetheless, like that just looks odd. And Sturm explained it as saying Peeke, I guess, in practice has this good move that he's gone to, and Sturm thought he was going to use Saturday, and Peeke didn't even use that move. So I don't know. I just look at him like it just feels like you're overthinking it. Like maybe Morgan Geekie isn't a shootout expert, but he's second in the NHL in goals. I want that guy going in my first 4 or 5 shooters. And I know he didn't ultimately score Saturday, but like he should be out there over Andrew Peeke. I mean, I know Peeke scored the tying goal. Maybe it's a vibes thing, but like he's been a Bruin for 127 games and he's beaten a goalie for a goal twice. Like I don't know.
Okay, so let me get this straight. The game means so much to the Bruins that they got to start Swayman. But it means so much to them that they also got to have Andrew Peeke with the game on the line go. Now, I don't care what Marco Sturm says about a practice move. He put him into the lineup, in the shootout lineup, because he had just tied the game 20 minutes earlier in real time. And he thought that he'd be a psychology professor here and think that Peeke was going to have a little bit of a boost and he'd go with his feel. He'd go with his gut there. Now, I generally speaking like Marco Sturm's gut instincts and the feel for the game that he has, having been an NHL player for as long as he has and a coach now for the last decade in different environments. But so I know what he's doing with Peeke there. I just simply don't agree with it. I think that you have a chance to win and bank 2 points. To your point, Scott, you have Morgan Geekie, who's led the NHL in goals the last calendar year, on the bench. You want to talk about feel? Pavel Zacha scored against Edmonton, scored against Vancouver, one of your top 5 scorers. I think he would have had a chance to go and win the game.
Wasn't one of those goals on a breakaway, or at least
it was
half a zone breakaway?
It was. I would also have gone with Charlie McAvoy before Andrew Peeke or Esimon. I would have gone with Fraser Minton before either one of those two. Now, yes, Morgan Geekie does get to shoot 7th. But as I told you guys before we started recording, there's a big difference between shooting 4th with a chance to win and shooting 7th where you have to score to keep your team in the game. There's a lot more pressure on that shot. There's a different energy about that shot, and it's a different spot to be put in. So, yeah, Geekie didn't score as a 7th shooter, but maybe he scores if he's the 4th shooter because it's a different dynamic. So I just, you piss those 2 points away. I do think that if, Pavel Zacha shoots 4th or Charlie McAvoy shoot, or 5th for that matter, because Esimon, like Jeremy Swayman didn't have a great game in regulation, but he gave his team every chance up until the Ogren goal, if I'm saying his last name right, to win that hockey game. So Bridget, I have some thoughts on the game, that Vancouver game too, but I want to get your thoughts on that shootout decision.
Yeah, I mean, when Scott, I was typing into my laptop and Scott goes, "Oh, Peake's going," and I laughed and I was like, "That's funny," because I thought he was kidding. And then I looked up and it was Peeke getting ready to go, and it was like totally thought he was joking because we had just been talking about, oh, Peeke has 3 goals in the last 7 games, and he only had 1 goal in his first 120 games as a Bruin, and now he's got 3 in the last 7. Like, we had been having a conversation. I thought he was kidding. And then I looked up and he was actually going, and I was like, this is crazy. But like, if it worked, everyone would be like, genius, like totally genius move. But obviously it didn't work. And then Asamont goes, and I think this has something to do with, I had sarcastically said something about, I didn't know McDavid was on the Bruins a few games ago because Asamont had that end-to-end goal where he takes it right to the net, like gets around his defender, whatever. Maybe that had something to do with it. Like people were saying, oh, he should go in the shootout. Well, he did. It didn't work out, but yeah, those two were probably the most puzzling of the choices. I guess I'll just read the order. It was Middlestat, then Pasta hits the crossbar. Everybody cheered. They thought it went in. So did I, actually. So it looked like Pasta had scored, but he didn't. And then they sent Husnudinov, not surprisingly. I'm fine with them sending him. He's got good hands. Then Peak was 4th, Asamont 5th, Elias Lindholm 6th, Geeky 7th. And yeah, I don't know. Second best goal scorer in the league going 7th in a shootout is kind of crazy. So, and Zacha, I kept being like, I bet they send Zacha next, and they just never did. So
has Zacha even gone in a shootout this year for the Bruins? I feel like I've asked myself that a few different times now in my head. Like, I don't why now the Bruins have been good in the extra sessions this year, so it hasn't really been much of a question, but I just haven't noticed him go much in the shootout.
Zacha has not. He has not gone in the shootout this year,
which is interesting. It's interesting. He has good hands, good skill, offensive skill. Like, I don't know. But hey, at least Peak and Asamont had great attempts, right? They were very special attempts that really almost scored, right? And the Peak thing, it's like, all right, it would be one thing if he had like this really nice confidence building goal in regulation. I'm really happy that he scored it. Obviously, it got the Bruins a point, and it was a big goal. But can we be honest about what happened there? It was a lucky play. I mean, tip of the cap for making the right play of getting a puck on net. You never know what's going to happen. But that puck goes off the post. It's a wrist shot where he's kind of backing away. So it wasn't like even like a hard. It was just get a wrist shot on goal, hits the post, goes off the goaltender's back, and barely crosses the goal line before he can get it with his glove. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew. Go win us the game, kid. I'm sorry. Like, I love Marco Sturm. He's done a great job. I think he handles people really well. I just think he miscalculated here. I think he overthought this one. And that's, it happens. Maybe next time they're in a shootout, he'll just decide to go with some of his top players.
Yeah, and I know, like, earlier this season, obviously he went with Husnudinov as, like, a little bit of a gut feel. And, Husnudinov joked after the game. He was like, and Sturm joked about it too. He was, like, looking around. He's like, who, me? Because I think Pastrnak wasn't in the top 3 that time. But, like, that's different. Like, Husnudinov has some obvious skill, right? Like, that's not the same as gut call for Andrew Peak. By the way, like, I was just
top 5 player in the world beside, up behind McDavid, McKinnon, Draisaitl.
I was just looking at Bruins career percentages in the shootout, and Brian, you mentioned McAvoy too. I mean, he's 3 for 8 career, like one of the best on the team. Technically, Husnudinov's the best. He's 1 for 2, just percentage wise. But like, Middlestat's been good, so he makes sense. He's a regular. Pastrnak, obviously a lot of attempts, 10 for 42, 23.8%. I would guess that's probably around average. I think like 25% is 20 to 25% is probably about average. They don't have a lot of specialists, but like I look down and I'm like, Morgan Geeky 0 for 3, but like he's now a player where it's like, get those numbers up, like get him in there more. He's clearly a guy who has learned how to score goals, and I know in regulation a lot of them are from distance, but like I don't know, I just want guys who know how to score goals going. So one other thing I'm going to highlight from just an interesting decision from Sturm that I didn't really get. So as Saturday's game goes on, he switches up his top 6 and ends up with a top line of Casey Middlestat, Elias Lindholm, and David Pastrnak. A line that had really not been used at all season. I looked it up. They'd only had like 2 minutes together prior to that at 5-on-5. Played really well the second half of that Vancouver game. Like that line had some dominant shifts, including one right at the end of the second period. And so I actually asked Sturm about that before Sunday's game. And, and he said like yeah, Casey's just been playing well, thought it would be an interesting look, liked how they played. And then I asked if he was going to go back to it. And he first of all, he winked at me, which was weird, but
He did. He said, "You'll see."
but he was like, yeah, you'll have to see. So I was like, all right, I think he's going back to it. Like, there's been a couple times this season where like I've found myself on like the same wavelength as Sturm, and I was like, all right, we're thinking the same thing here.
Why he winked at you?
But instead he went Middlestad, Zaka, Pasternak, and then Husnudinov, Lindholm, Geeky, and then ended up changing up those combinations as Sunday's game went on. Obviously didn't get nearly enough from that group, and maybe it wouldn't have mattered what the combinations were because, you know, individually you just needed those guys to be better. But I just thought it was odd that it was like you kind of stumbled onto this line of Middlestad, Lindholm, Pasternak that was really good for a period and a half. And I would have just thought, hey, let's try it right from the start of Sunday's game and see how it looks. And so that was a little curious that he switched things up and didn't go back to that for Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned it earlier, and again, I'm not bashing anybody, but it's just it has to be mentioned, right? David Pastrnak just doesn't seem like himself 5-on-5, and I don't know if he's still dealing with something. He probably is, right? He missed 5 or 6 games in the middle of over the last calendar month.
But and just Brian, just to add to that, like, and to probably support the case that he is still working through something. At recent practices and morning skates, he has been either going out earlier or staying later and like doing some pretty hard skating drills that I don't recall seeing Pastrnak do in those situations before. And to me, I think that is a sign of like he's still trying to just fight through this and like skate through it and push himself when he's on the ice to try to get better and to try to start to feel like he can push himself that way. And I do think it's still showing up in games that like he's not quite there, but he's trying to battle through it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's worth bringing that up because, players deal with things all the time and it's a game played by humans and, shit happens, but it's just, he's gone 14 games and counting now without an even strength goal. And, he has 3 goals in his last 13 games. 2 were in the same game. One of those goals was an empty net. And then last night he breaks through on a 5-on-3. Okay. So, great. Like, love that, but it's a 5-on-3. So he's just, I don't know. He's not playing like somebody who has the confidence of somebody that is one of the best players in the world. And I find that when he's struggling, he tries to do too much because he's trying to get himself out of it. And less is more when you're battling it, especially if you're battling injury. And it sucks for him if he is going through injury right now. But I think a lot of the tinkering you're seeing is because he's not going at even strength. And Elias Lindholm is not a big even strength play driver or producer. Morgan Geeky, he has his moments, but he's also kind of a power play merchant too. And, I think Zaka, Middlestat, I think they've been good at 5-on-5 a lot, but I just think that if Pastrnak is going the way he can go, I don't think you're making all these tinkerings. It doesn't really matter who's the third player on his line or even the second and third player. Like he's that good when he's on his game. And to me, he's off, whether it's physically, mentally, both. He's a bit off right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's there's got to be some sort of physical aspect to it, I would think. But that's kind of all I have left to add about that. I have 3 other things I want to get to, all equally important. So
from one game, both games?
None of the above.
Okay, but I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. If it's not about the Vancouver game, do you mind if I say something real quick about the Vancouver game?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, because I don't want to go back. I know the Bruins heavily outshot Vancouver in that game. That game pissed me off nearly just as much as the Senators game, for much different reasons. The situational play by the Bruins has been bothersome to me as I mentioned earlier in the episode, beginnings of periods, end of power plays that you're trying to kill on your own power play. How many breakaways did they give Tim Stützle last night on the Bruins' own power play? Anyway, that was the Ottawa Senators game. Back to the Vancouver game. The Bruins have a lead, 1-0 in the first period, and Hampus Lindholm's supposed to be one of your rocks back on the back end, and he just gets out muscled in the corner by Carlson. And there's a minute, I think was it Scott? Do you remember what the exact time was left in the period when Vancouver tied at 1-1? Was it a minute and change?
The which period? The first period?
Yeah, the 1-1 goal.
There's 15 seconds left in the period.
Yeah,
it was
okay.
Final minute.
Okay, I thought it was like 1:15. Yeah, okay, so 15 seconds, so even worse. You lose a 1-on-1 battle with 15 seconds left in the period, and now it's 1-1, and you have been dominating the entire period. So you leave the sheet of ice tied, and you feel like you're losing. Then the Bruins find themselves with a 3-2 lead in the third period, early stages of the third period on a power play. You have a chance to go up 2 goals and really cement your odds to win that game going away. Instead, you don't capitalize on the man advantage, which happens, okay? But the reality is you don't capitalize, and then a few minutes later, now it's 4-3 Vancouver. And then we know the rest. Andrew Peeke ties it, and then the shootout we covered. So, the Lindholm play bothered me because now it's 1-1. And then it bothered me that they don't take advantage of a 3-2 lead and a power play in the third. Now you go down a goal. And it just felt like, yes, Vancouver was opportunistic. Yes, Swayman wasn't his sharpest, especially on that first or second Carlson goal. I just thought the Bruins got too cute at times. I mean, you look at that McAvoy playing overtime where he's all alone in the slot. Like, they got too cute, and they just let Vancouver sit around. And I hate games like that.
Yeah, and I mean that 4-3 goal too, the Liam Ogren one that he tips in, like it's a breakdown in coverage off the face-off. Minton doesn't get out to the point in time, but also like Ogren just out-muscles Hampus Lindholm going to the net. And look, you could argue his interference, like there's a little bit of a takedown shove there, but it's the third period. Like you just got to fight through it. Like you just got to, it's a physical battle. You just got to win it. And Liam Ogren, credit to the kid, he won it. He just knocked Hampus Lindholm out of the way and got to the net and got his stick on the puck. So yeah, Hampus Lindholm gets up and he's looking around for a penalty. And again, like you could have made a call, but you also just there's got to be something inside you that's just like, I'm not losing this battle. I'm not letting this kid get to the net on me. And Ogren just won it too easily.
So that was that, Bridget. Sorry to derail your thoughts.
Also, one last thing I'll say. So I guess it's kind of easy to say this after the Vancouver game where they do blow a third period lead. But I mentioned last week, like, I wasn't fully buying that narrative that the Bruins were some dominant third period team that knew how to close teams out. And it's like, Vancouver game kind of showed what I was talking about. Like, they've made mistakes in third periods and gotten away with it, and this time they didn't.
Mm-hmm. Fair. I think the Bruins' defensive details and competitiveness has simultaneously slipped at the same time. I think they're kind of, but yeah, it's fair to point out, Scott. Bridget, I'm sorry. What was it that you wanted? The 3 things you wanted to talk about?
3 things. All right, where do we start? First of all, Sidney Crosby passes Mario Lemieux as the Penguins' all-time leader in points. So last night against Montreal, he assisted on a Raquel goal, which put him, let me see, how many points does he have now? 1,724 points, most in Penguins history. So obviously him and Lemieux were up there, and it kind of did feel like it was just a matter of time at a certain point for Crosby to pass that. So it was a bench clearing situation. Everybody knows he breaks the record. Everybody comes, greets him. So I just wanted to mention that because that was a big thing around the league yesterday that was not related to the Bruins. So that's big for him.
Just a quick note on that, and I don't say this to take anything away from Crosby at all, because it's obviously an incredible accomplishment. He's one of the 10 greatest players ever.
But
It is insane. It is insane when you look at Mario Lemieux, 1723 career points. He did not play 1,000 games. He played 915 career games. Like, it's like averaged almost 2 points per game. Obviously, like 8th all time. Not that like anyone needs me to tell them how incredible Mario Lemieux was, but like when you just actually see that, like I saw someone tweet that it was like the number of games they did it in. You see 915 next to Lemieux's name, and you're like, that's just insane. Like it's silly to have over 1,700 points without even playing 1,000 games.
Let me throw you on the spot then real quick. Scott, you're starting a team. They're both in their primes. They're both 18 years old entering the league. Who are you starting your franchise with, Lemieux or Crosby?
Lemieux. I don't even have to think twice.
Okay. I mean, I think a lot of people would probably agree with that. I mean, he's the second. What do you think is the general consensus of Lemieux? Top 3 player all time, top 4, and then Crosby's probably like between 6 and 10.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like the Mount Rushmore of like the true all-time greats is widely considered Gretzky or Lemieux, Gordie Howe. And I think it'd be hard to argue anyone other than that.
All right.
So that was my one tip of the hat to Sidney Crosby. I get those in occasionally, but this one extremely warranted. So
you're not cheering for him in February, though.
No,
you're not doing it.
No.
I'm not gonna let it happen.
Come on, USA. No, but anyhow, I wanted to mention that, and so I'm gonna save the best for last, which means part number 2 of 3 is the U.S. World Junior team played yesterday. Wanted to just mention because there's 2 Bruins guys on the team. Will Zellers made the team. He's playing on the 4th line left wing, but he
hasn't officially made it yet.
Well, okay, as of this, he played in this game, so it looks like he's projected to be on the team playing 4th line left.
Well, I mean this was a tryout game for some bubble guys, but
he probably
what you're getting, like, Will Zellers made a good case for himself.
Yes, that's what I was trying to get to, but you interrupted me twice.
No, but I just wanted to like he's still very much on the bubble. Is what I just want to make that clear.
Okay, so he has a good game yesterday. He scores. And Hagen's played yesterday as well, which is good because he had gotten injured in practice, I believe, earlier in the week, and he took a second to get up off the ice, and then I think went back to practicing non-contact, but it seems like he's fine. So it looks like he'll probably center the top line, unless you think it looks like to me that's where he is. And then hopefully for the Bruins and hopefully for Will Zellers, because we know this is important to him when we talk to him this offseason, rooting for him to make that team on, even if it isn't a 4th line role, and just get that experience, because a lot of coaches in college will tell you that it is really valuable experience to get time on your national team playing against tougher, playing against Canada this year is gonna be the toughest thing that these guys will do the whole year. So Canada has a really good team this year, and so it would be really good for Zellers to make the team and to get some time and hopefully learn something from the tournament. It can only help his development.
I'm curious because I know that they are out there, our Canadian listeners, what your thoughts are on Canadians roster this year and how they've looked in a few of their preliminary games so far, because last year there was a lot of discourse and frustration amongst Canadian fans about the roster that they submitted. They didn't think that they had the most talent possible. And this year it looks like now Canada's always going to have some players that are of age, but are, kind of doing really well in the NHL and, aren't really going to be on the World Junior roster. So if you really stacked up Canada versus America in terms of like age eligible players, I think Canada would always have the higher of the end talent, and it pains me to say that, obviously. But when it comes to World Juniors, the U.S. they're able to send more of their best than Canada most years. With that said, Canada has made they've put together a roster, to Bridget, to your point, that is, to use a word, filthy.
Yeah.
However,
I mean,
they have not looked great they haven't looked great in their preliminary games. So I'm curious on our Canadian listeners what your opinion is on how they've looked despite their talent on paper. And Scott, also, before you go, they did have a few omissions. Like Jake O'Brien, who's been lighting up the CHL. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, it's like I've somewhat jokingly said to people, like, if the US and Canada play and the US keeps it within 4 goals, I'll consider that a win. Like, I think on paper, this Canada roster should go down as one of the best World Junior teams ever. It is absolutely loaded. And to your point, like, Jake O'Brien got cut. He was the 8th overall pick. He went 1 pick behind Higgins. Higgins is going to be far and away the US's top forward, number 1 center. He's going to be playing like 22 minutes a game. They're going to be relying on him heavily. The guy who went 1 pick behind him, Canada's like, nope, don't have room for him. See ya. You can go back to Brantford. He plays for Brantford, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Bulldogs.
Keaton Veerhoff is going to be an extra defenseman. He's going to be a top 2 pick in next summer's draft. He's not even in their top 6 right now. Like, it's
crazy.
Last year they didn't take Misa, right? Wasn't they left? Was it 2 years?
But he's there this year, and obviously he was drafted 2nd overall this past June. You have Gavin McKenna, who was there last year too, but they just insane amount of talent. But and that's kind of why I wanted to give the prompt that I did to our Canadian listeners, because talent on paper doesn't always translate to on ice chemistry, and this is not me predicting Canada won't win the gold. I think despite the US being the back-to-back champions, I do think that Canada rightfully should enter this tournament as the favorites. But I'm curious to see in a short tournament how all of that elite talent gels, because everybody wants the puck, right? Everybody is the best player where they are, and that goes for the US team too. But it's these Canadian kids, like they're all special talents, and so it's how do they work as a team? And I'll be fascinated to see that, because I think the US program, they don't have to deal with that issue as much. Like, they have a lot of talent, don't get me wrong, but I think their role players know more who they are, and Canada is going to have a roster of kids who might be maybe a little bit more uncomfortable in a lesser role. So we'll just see how it plays out.
Yeah, Jay Pandolfo, who's BU's head coach, told me last year that he thought it'd be good for somebody like Yzerman, who's going to be on the team again this year, to to try to figure out a way to contribute playing like 4 or 5 fewer minutes a night than he's used to at BU. And he thought that when he came back, he was able to kind of just think about things a different way and how to impact games. So it can be valuable, actually, to see how kids handle getting less ice time and how they adapt to it. But there's some Hockey East guys going too. So on US, Cole Hudson and Cole Yzerman from BU are going to be back. Camille Bednarik, also BU, going to be centering probably the 3rd line, it looks like. And then BC, Stiga, and Higgins are going to be there for US. So, to me, the question mark's goaltending for the US. I mean, Cole Hudson led the tournament in points, first defenseman to ever do it last year. I mean, he's going to be good. I think they have some really high-powered, high-skilled guys that, like you said, best team on paper sometimes doesn't necessarily play out that way. So we'll see. But Canada, I would call the favorite. The US has won the last 2 years. I believe Canada won the 2 years before that. So they kind of keep going back and forth. But that's coming up. What's the first real game, Scott, for the US?
26th, the day after Christmas. Or
So
Boxing Day for our Canadian friends.
Yeah, so we'll be watching that. And then
I mean, the U.S. should roll through their first 3 games: Germany, Switzerland, Slovakia, and then New Year's Eve is their big group stage game. That's against Sweden. Nice double feature that night. USA Sweden at 6:00 Eastern, and then Bruins Oilers. A nice 9:30 New Year's Eve game.
Doesn't US and Canada play every year at least once before the gold medal game? Is that it's not true?
They're not in the same group this year. It just goes by like how they're seeded coming out of the tournament the previous year. It goes like 1, 4, 5, 8 in one group, 2, 3, 6, 7 in another.
I mean, US has they have a ton of talent too. Like as good as Canada is, I mean, the US team is sick as well. They are absolutely capable, in my opinion, of winning gold. I don't think they're the favorite, but they're very capable. They play with a lot of swagger too, and a lot of these kids. The biggest difference here, and you're starting to see it come to fruition now at the World Junior level, is that because of the U.S. National Development Program, a lot of these U.S. players play together, in like their teenagehood before they go off to college. So, they're not strangers when they reunite in tournaments like this. They play in all sorts of tournaments. Now the roster isn't 100% going to be the case, but a lot of these kids play together. They know each other. They're all friends. The Canadian roster, they don't have a Canadian National Development Program at the junior level, I don't think, Scott, right? It's just like, these rosters they put together. So it's more of a mixed bag of players who come in and have to gain chemistry like right away. And so I think that chemistry is a reason why the U.S. team is always kind of confident in their ability outside of their skill. And that's a dynamic that they have.
Yeah, I think maybe people don't realize this. I'll just mention it in case for people who don't know, like the U.S. National Development Program is a team that like goes and plays against college teams. So like these guys coming to college, they're playing together for the US NDP, and they're going and they're playing against Minnesota. I've broadcast a few games where they've come and played different teams that I've been a broadcaster for, and they're good. Like they beat these college teams. And so like
at like 16, 17 years old, right? Or not 16, but like 17. 16,
yeah, they're young. Yeah, 17 about.
It's under 18.
Under 18.
Yeah, so like Leonard Perreault and Will Smith were all playing together for the US NDP before they were playing for BC together. And like Yzerman was one of the best scorers in the history of the US National Development Program before he went to BU. And so like, yes, these guys have familiarity. They go, I think it's in Minnesota. They go out, they live there. They kind of like,
Michigan. It's in Ann Arbor.
So Michigan, you say? So yeah, they're kind of like homeschooled a little bit. Like they're learning while they're playing, but it's not college. It's not prep. Like it's an interesting system, but I always am intrigued. They'll come play exhibition games against college teams. They're always pretty good. So yeah, it's probably good practice for them. And then they go on to usually have pretty good college careers as well. Just look at Ryan Leonard. So anyway, I'm excited for that. I think a lot of people who like the prospects, like to follow the prospects, are excited to see that. And Hagen's he played last year, but we didn't know he was a Bruins prospect last year. We were at the time jokingly like, maybe the Bruins should tank all the way to last place to get him, whatever. He ends up with them. So now we know, watching him, like, keep an eye on this guy, see how he does against. And this is like actually something Sweeney said to us when he got drafted. I said, do you think his upside is as a first line center? And he said he's been elite at every level he's played at. And he pointed to World Juniors as one of those levels where showing that he can be a top line center for that team bodes well for his future in the pros with the Bruins. So if you're a Bruins fan, probably, good to watch if you can find the time.
Well, and again, it's funny that like Hagen's this time last year was projected first overall, and his stock dropped because he was only a point per game player in college hockey as a true freshman. And then it's like you have, all these CHL guys that were drafted high with Hagen's last year. And then others like Gavin McKenna who were draft eligible this year. And it's like, Are they putting up 2 points per game in NCAA? No, they're not. It's like it's a we've talked about that before, but it's harder to score goals. It's harder to produce offense in NCAA college hockey. It just is, which is fascinating when you really think about how the U.S. National Development Program has a U18 team that plays NCAA teams, because you're talking about 16, 17-year-old kids that are playing against like kids that are
25, some of them.
Yeah, I mean, there are some true
Yeah.
freshmen in NCAA that are like 18, but most of the kids are like early 20s, mid 20s.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that's usually only like a handful of games. Like most of their games are against USHL teams, so
yeah, but still,
it is the same age group, but yeah, it is. They are mixed in throughout the season.
They still play like 10, 12 games of their like. I think the U.S. National Program, I think they play like around 60 games a year. I want to say like 13 to 15 might be against college teams, and then the rest is USHL. And what's the age range for USHL, do you think? Is that more like late teens?
It's like I would say 17 to 19 ish.
Yeah, so that's the majority of their schedule, to be fair. But it's like you're playing a baker's dozen plus games against NCAA teams. Like the age difference sometimes can range to. I mean, to your point, Bridget, it's not common that you have a 25-year-old college hockey player, but it is possible. So it's possible you could have a 16-year-old playing against a 25-year-old in those games.
Yeah, I was out of school several years broadcasting a game at Providence, and I was like 25, about to turn 26 or something like that, and there was a kid on the team that was like 4 months younger than me, and I was like, "What is this? I've been graduated for such a long time, it feels like." And then I'm watching this guy play, and I'm like, "Oh, this is interesting." But yeah, there's kids throughout the league you'll get a few that are 25.
My one last World Junior note: if you're looking for another Bruins prospect, Vasek Blanar is on the Czech team. Bruins 4th round pick from this past summer, committed to UMass for next season. So a chance to see him, someone that certainly I have not watched much of other than Bruins development camp. And, I doubt people are watching his games over in Sweden, where he plays. So, a chance to see him over here on North American soil.
Yeah. UMass gets a lot of Czech kids, a lot of Slovak kids. I mean, they pull out of Eastern Europe more, I think, than other teams do. But yeah, like once you get a few guys, then they kind of tell their friends, and then they want to go play there. So
I know we only got a minute or two left here, but didn't UMass Lowell, like, I know you're talking Amherst Bridge, but and Scott, I'll direct this to you because you're from the area. Didn't UMass Lowell go through a stretch where they were heavy into like Russian recruits?
UConn did. UConn
definitely did. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't remember
when they were in like those Hockey East championships a couple of years in a row. Like I feel like they had a couple of like, I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering, but they always had like older players come in and they were just kind of like filthy. And
I mean, they definitely had a lot of older Canadians. Like Norm Bazin always had a bit of a Western Canada pipeline he could kind of tap into. Going back to when he was recruiting at Colorado College, I think he had made a lot of those connections. I don't really remember Russians.
I know UConn for sure did have a phase like right after, like from like 2017, 2018 or whatever. They had, I think their entire top line was Russian guys, but yeah, different. You'll see different phases for guys tell, like, so right now Northeastern has a bunch of French Canadian kids because of the Ritzkovians. Yeah, so like they'll go, and actually a lot of them train in Quebec in the summer, but so yeah, you'll get little pockets of people that are friends that'll go down. But anyway,
I don't envy Northeastern's recruitment staff the next couple of years. I do not. That's a tough sales pitch.
Yeah,
it'd be tough. But yeah, anyway, we have time for my third and final thing, which I was saving the best for last.
You got a minute here.
So Brian, you were supposed to remind me this, and you didn't. The Skate Pod Stadium Series jerseys dropped today.
Yeah, I haven't seen these. Do you have a picture of them?
So, all right. Yeah, this is the Skate Pod Stadium Series jersey unveiling Neither of them have seen it. So here's what we're going with.
Oh my God. You gotta be.
I'll describe it for those
that
listeners.
is absolutely insane. Oh my God. It reminds me of the guy from Jurassic Park, in the beginning of the movie. Holy smokes.
So for those who are listening and can't see it, it is the bright yellow color that these jerseys are. Maybe closer to the color of those Merrimack jerseys, but
Bridget, you got to tweet it out. That has to get tweeted out. I'm sorry, Scott. It has to go out, please. That's insane. Oh my God.
It's Scott wearing a fedora dressed like Jimmy Buffett with a popcorn, and there's a lot going on, but this is our official Stadium Series jersey.
Oh, Bridget, that's beautiful. Oh, that was well worth the wait. I know. I'm sorry I forgot to tell you to remind you, but that's
I texted
beautiful.
Brian. I said, "Remind me that I got to drop this jersey," and then I had to remember it all on my own, and I did. So there we go.
All right.
So are those on sale? Can people get those as a last minute Christmas gift?
Yeah. I'll be boxing these up until Christmas Eve.
Well, there's a couple different versions, but the authentic Fanatics version is going to be $600. So make sure to get your hands on one of those. But
it's a beautiful color. It matches everyone really well.
That does. That's lovely. Unreal. All right. Everybody enjoy Bruins Canadians on Tuesday. Hopefully it's a win for the Bruins, and we'll be back Christmas Eve to discuss that. Take care. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.